I'm sorry, are you addressing me? Because your authority is not recognized in Fort Kickass.
Are not rubbers.
Oh, my God. Okay, yes, you can rub them, but just please don't hurt my family.
I mean, we're not robbers.
Oh.
Hi, this is Harry from 1inFive.
This is Brian from 1inFive.
This is Meg from Shape of the Sun.
This is Jess from Shoot Lab.
You're listening to Dr. Bones.
Dr. Bones and Mike. Dr. Bones and Mike.
And you're listening to New Music Saturday.
This is Martin from Ability Rock.
JJ from Juxta.
Hey, this is Leslie.
And Jason.
Of The Sweetest Condition. New Music Saturday.
Music Saturday.
New Music Saturday.
New Music Saturday.
And you're listening to New Music Saturday.
New Music Saturday. Dr. Bones and Mike. New Music Saturday.
Right on, and we are live. Welcome to New Music Saturday with myself, Dr. Bones, and the guitarist, everybody, which they were, Mike, 1inFive.
Hello. Good evening. You alright?
Very well. How about yourself?
Hey. Mate, living the dream as always.
Well, we got a great show tonight. Our special musical guest tonight is Red or Dead. We have, it's just going to be a great time. But we have Robin and Darla. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Please be here.
Very well. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're all good here. There's a bit of a worry getting on technical difficulties, but we're here now.
Well, you know what? NMS wouldn't be anything without technical difficulties, and Mike and I can vouch for that because it's happened quite a few times, and we troubleshoot and do the best we can.
Hey, it all works out.
Exactly. So very first off, I'm going to start the questioning here. The name Red or Dead, like, where did that come from? What's the kind of the story behind it?
I think it was a film back in the 80s that stuck in my mind. What was it called? I think it's called Red. It's about the Russians invading America. And there was a line in it saying, "You're better dead than red." And I just reversed it and got Red or Dead. Because we'd rather be red than dead. It's just what I mean. But, yeah, it was off of an old 80s film. What was that called? It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me at some point. But yeah, it was from a film.
You know.
And it encapsulates kind of the political direction that we come from as well. Kind of a socialist background.
Right. Well, you know, that was the next thing I was going to get to because as Mike and I have played a good majority of your songs off the new album, when we've been talking about it, there was at least at one point where I myself referred to you guys as the folk rock version of, excuse me, I get a little something meowing in the background. If you want to be quiet there, buddy, thank you. So sorry about the sidetrack, but I pretty much refer to you guys as the folk rock version of Rage Against the Machine.
That'd be cool, yeah. I mean, originally, Gala and I were in quite a heavy rock band. How long was that? For about 8 years, anyway. And you know, we were playing that kind of stuff, but we kind of met up with some other people. We tried out the acoustic guitars and the cajon and the mandolin. It all kind of fitted well together. So that kind of changed the sound of music that we were playing, and dictated the kind of things we were writing, really, and how we put it across. So it was a mutation, which I guess could trace its roots back to like the beginnings of punk rock, really. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Well,
you know, my next question would be is what kind of gravitated you to kind of make that little bit of a turn to kind of go to the softer side of things? I mean, I know you just mentioned a couple of things, but what was kind of like what really kind of drew you to it? So, no, we're going to kind of try this way instead, and we're not going to bother with the heavy stuff anymore.
Well, I think it was when we all played together, because we were, as I say, we were playing together quite heavily. And then we kind of met up with Emma and Dave, and she was playing the cajon, which I'm sure you guys know is a kind of an old wooden, well, it's an upturned tea chest that the old blues players used to play on years ago, and she was playing that, and we'd met up demonstrating against at a UKIP conference, and we played a song together, and it kind of sounded nice. And we kind of thought that we would try out a few songs, but we kind of still play the guitars with a real intensity, and we still sing and, nigh on shout the lyrics out. So it's still like as if we're playing like in a really loud rock band, but we're doing it with acoustic guitars and a cajon and bass. And it kind of felt to us kind of different. We were putting it across a bit differently. And we could, of course, just go and do it anywhere because we weren't plugged into anything, so we could just turn up, play wherever we liked, which was good. But yeah, it kind of felt like a new sound to us. I'm sure other people have heard something like it somewhere along the line, but it was good for us at the time.
Right on. Mike, want to go ahead and ask some questions, buddy?
Yes, hello, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking for a little while. We've been playing your tracks for a little while. I'm a massive fan.
Nice. Yeah, we've heard. Thanks a lot.
That's our pleasure. I'm a massive fan. Bonesy's a massive fan. So thank you very, very much for coming on. I was going to ask you two things, I suppose. So just because I always ask this just in case, if anyone's never heard you before, we've kind of given our description of you, but how do you describe yourselves? We talk to someone and you go, I'm in this band, and they go, what's it sound like?
Well, as you well know, it's the hardest thing in the world to describe yourself to someone else.
Right.
But
do it again.
I would like to say we're the acoustic version of the Clash, but other people have described us differently.
Crazy would be one.
Yeah. I like to, we're intense. We feel the music we're playing, which reminds me of those kind of concerts that Clash did in the early days. I used to go and watch the Clash and the old punk bands, and that's what inspired me to pick up the guitar. Things bands like the Clash and the Stranglers and the Sex Pistols and Susan the Banshees and all that, and that's what. But then that's from my point of view, and we've got 5 of us in the band now. And they're all putting their musical influence into it. So I guess the outward feel is probably not really like the Clash, although that's what I'd want it to be.
Collaboration, really.
Yeah, it's a collaboration that comes out
of everybody's individual, feelings on what they've liked throughout the years, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that's it, isn't it? When I can't speak. In my last band, many years ago now, we kind of, me and my mate who was a singer got together and we said, right, let's make a sort of really classic rock band. Let's basically make it sound like Led Zeppelin. And of course, by the time you bring in 3 other people, it doesn't sound anything like that. It was a great band.
Yeah.
It never does. So it's kind of cool because and we play so much stuff on the show, and we hear so many bands now where, because you've got kind of 60, 70 years worth of rock and roll history to draw on, and even the electronic bands who play and everything all kind of draw on different parts of that, and even we've had bands that draw from earlier, from jazz things and things like that. So I guess that's it, and everyone's unique, but it's all about that collaboration. I'm particularly interested in your lyrics, so I'm a bit of a socialist, I suppose. Well, actually, I'm more of an anarchist, to be honest with you, but I'm a socialist, capitalist anarchist. I don't know what I am. I'm just fuck it all. But basically, I'm interested in you describing to people your lyrics, because you've got some gems on the album. You've got some great lines. We'll talk about your new track in a bit as well, which is again lyrically very powerful. But who writes the lyrics, and do you want to kind of give us a feel for themes and what they're about and stuff like that, for again people that perhaps haven't heard it or haven't paid attention?
Yeah. Also, some of those songs, especially on Trotsky Waltz, go back to the early 80s. I mean, Travel Home I wrote at the time of the Brixton riots.
Right.
There's a track that will be on the next album called Limited Vision, which was one of the very first songs I wrote nearly 40 years ago. God, that makes me feel old.
It's amazing you're only 26. I mean, that's...
He's not. I can vouch for that.
You never ask how old people are. Actually, I never kind of know before we talk. Unless
I'm a young-looking 104. And all through my life, I've been influenced by what happens around us. I was very much against Margaret Thatcher. I was in the anti-Nazi League, and I marched and protested and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of felt, I don't know, through the Blair years and later on, that politics and people protesting in music kind of died. It went away, and there was loads of guys with acoustic guitars and girls all singing about their long lost love and all this kind of stuff, and it kind of wasn't interesting me at all. And for me, listening to music kind of died a little bit, and I was just listening to the old stuff. And only through actually listening again and listening to bands on the local scene and listening to guys like you and other local radio stations who are playing local bands and unsigned bands, that you realise there's such a great wealth of musical talent around still. And there's some really, really good bands around that you never are going to hear on a mainstream radio station. But, it costs me a fortune now, because I go on a station, I always hear a track that I like, I've got to buy that CD now. So I end up with, it's like the old days, when you were young and you rushed out to buy your favourite band's new single.
Yeah.
It's we're influenced by what's happening to people, what should be happening in society, the unequalness of society, the unbalance in society, and as you know, in the new single, we were quite outraged by some of that unbalance. But those are kind of things that influence, things that affect people, and not just the fact that the girlfriend's left with my dog.
Right.
And they
sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry, guys. I was going to say, we've said this quite a lot on the show recently, because we've had quite a few, quite politically charged tracks through, and even my band is quite down that route as well. They won't release anything for a while, but it's nice is the wrong word, but it's good to hear that kind of stuff coming through, like
rock and roll.
Yeah, we spoke to Dylan T. Rocks a year or so ago now, and Martin's kind of gone off and started doing his solo stuff, and we played his track a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, which is a kind of anti-Brexit song, and I've seen on Facebook and stuff, he's getting loads of stick from people and all the rest of it, and one comment stuck out, which is, we'd never, I think it was about a gig he's playing that's opposite Downing Street, it's like a protest thing, so we'd never play a sort of political or religious gig, because it could be the death of your band sort of thing. I was like, well, religious, fair enough. I've not heard of many religious gigs, but isn't the whole point of music to kind of speak your mind and protest?
Express yourself.
It doesn't matter if you agree with Brexit or disagree with Brexit. It doesn't matter if you're on one side of the political spectrum or the other, or in the middle, or whatever. Just say something other than something dull that no one cares about. And
I mean, you're dead right. There's a million singers who will tell you how their heart's broken, and then they'll go off and cash a check for it. You need to stand up and say what you believe in, and then it's coming from the heart, isn't it? If you're standing up and saying what you believe in, you actually are telling the truth. And again, from whatever side of the spectrum you come from, and it's going to be more passionate, more powerful that way, I think. Anyway.
Absolutely, and it doesn't always have to be about politics or whatever. Although politics at the moment, what's interesting, of course, is worldwide it's so divisive, and yet mainstream music is so generic and bland and in the middle. No one wants to go either way, because they almost don't want to. We might lose half our audience. But it's like you can't twice as much from one side if you just kind of told people what you think. But it doesn't even have to be about politics. It's just I think people should have an opinion on things. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with a good love song actually, but there's quite a lot of them, and they're not. There's not a lot that did anything that I haven't heard before. You know what I mean? So
that's the thing.